Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hub, and let me ask you something that might just change the way you look at your spare change forever. What if I told you that a simple dime, a coin you probably handle every single day without thinking twice, could actually be worth $8 million? Yes, you heard that right. $8 million for a coin that's supposed to be worth just 10 cents. Most people would glance at a 1974 dime and toss it into a parking meter or use it to buy a piece of candy, never realizing they just gave away a fortune that could buy them a luxury mansion, a fleet of sports cars, or fund their retirement dreams for multiple lifetimes. This isn't some fairy tale or clickbait nonsense. This is the reality of the 1974 one dime. A coin so rare and so coveted by collectors that when one surfaces at auction, bidding wars erupt like volcanic explosions, with deep-pocketed numismatists willing to pay astronomical prices just to add this treasure to their collections. Now, before we dive into the incredible story behind this specific dime, I need you to understand something crucial. This video isn't just about one extraordinary coin. Oh no, we're going to reveal two mind-blowing dimes today. And trust me when I say that the second one will leave you absolutely speechless. So you absolutely need to stick around until the very end, because if you think 8 million is shocking, wait until you hear what the next dime is valued at. But I'm not going to spoil that surprise just yet. You'll have to stay tuned for that revelation. Now, let's talk about this 1974 one dime and why it commands such an eye-watering price tag that makes even seasoned collectors' jaws drop to the floor. The story begins in 1974, a year when America was dealing with economic uncertainty, the aftermath of the oil crisis, Watergate scandal dominating headlines, and the United States Mint was churning out millions upon millions of dimes to keep the economy's wheels turning smoothly. The Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint were working overtime, producing these small but essential coins that Americans used for everything from phone calls to vending machines to laundromats. And on the surface, every single one of these dimes looked absolutely identical: same weight, same diameter, same composition of copper and nickel, same portrait of President Franklin D. Roosevelt on the obverse, and same torch, oak branch, and olive branch design on the reverse. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating, and where a simple minting error transformed an ordinary 10-cent piece into a multi-million-dollar phenomenon. During the production process at one of the mints, something went catastrophically wrong. You see, the dies used to strike coins are precision-engineered tools that are supposed to create perfect impressions on both sides of every single planchet. But occasionally, incredibly rarely, a die can develop a crack, a clash, or in this case, something even more spectacular happened. The 1974 dime that collectors are frantically searching for features an error so distinctive and so rare that fewer than a handful are believed to exist in the entire world. And we're talking about a double die obverse error combined with a missing clad layer, creating a coin that weighs differently than normal dimes and displays dramatic doubling on Roosevelt's profile, the date, and the word liberty. Imagine looking at a dime where every letter and number appears to have a ghostly shadow, where the president's profile seems almost three-dimensional, jumping off the surface of the coin with an intensity that immediately screams different to anyone who knows what to look for. This isn't subtle, this isn't something you need a magnifying glass to detect, although you'll definitely want to use one to appreciate all the intricate details. This is obvious to the trained eye, and it's this obviousness combined with the extreme rarity that drives the value through the stratosphere. Now, you might be wondering, how exactly did such an error occur, and why weren't these coins caught during the quality control process? Well, let me explain. During the minting process, blank planchets are fed into massive coining presses that strike them with tremendous force using two dies, one for the obverse and one for the reverse, and normally this happens in a fraction of a second with computer-like precision. But in 1974, at least one die was either improperly prepared, was used beyond its intended lifespan, or experienced a mechanical mishap that caused it to strike coins with this doubled effect. Additionally, the missing clad layer issue suggests that some planchets were either improperly prepared or that the copper-nickel cladding didn't properly bond to the copper core, resulting in a coin that not only looks wrong but also feels wrong when you hold it because it weighs less than a standard dime should. Quality control inspectors at the Mint are trained to catch these errors, and they do an incredible job of preventing mistake coins from entering circulation, but despite their best efforts, some always slip through the cracks. Sometimes an inspector is tired after a long shift. Sometimes the error is so new that they haven't been trained to spot it yet. Sometimes the volume of coins being produced is so overwhelming that a few anomalies inevitably escape detection. And that's exactly what happened with these 1974 error dimes. A small number, perhaps as few as 3 to 5 specimens, made it past inspection, got mixed in with millions of normal dimes, and were shipped out to banks across America where they entered circulation just like any other coin, completely unnoticed and unappreciated for what they truly were. Literal treasures hiding in plain sight. For years, maybe even decades, these error dimes changed hands in everyday transactions, used to buy newspapers, dropped into tip jars, given as change at grocery stores, and nobody had any clue that they were handling a coin worth millions. Can you imagine the heartbreak if you realized you once had one of these coins and spent it? Can you imagine kicking yourself knowing that you used a multi-million-dollar coin to buy a candy bar or a soda? This is why coin collectors are so passionate, so obsessed, so dedicated to checking every single coin that passes through their hands, because they know that lightning can strike, that fortune can smile on the observant, and that the next coin they examine might just be the one that changes their life forever. And remember, we're only talking about the first incredible dime today. Keep watching because the next one is going to blow your mind even more. I promise you. Now, let's talk about the moment when the coin collecting community first became aware of this 1974 error dime and how quickly the value skyrocketed once word got out. The first documented discovery happened when a sharp-eyed collector in the Midwest was going through rolls of old dimes they'd purchased from a local bank, examining each coin carefully under bright light with a jeweler's loupe, when suddenly they noticed something that made their heart nearly stop. The doubling, the weight discrepancy, the unmistakable signs that this was not a normal 1974 dime. After nearly dropping the coin in shock, they carefully placed it in a protective holder and immediately contacted the Professional Coin Grading Service, better known as PCGS, one of the most respected third-party grading companies in the numismatic world. When the coin arrived at PCGS headquarters, the graders examined it with forensic precision using high-powered microscopes, precision scales, and spectral analysis equipment, and their conclusion sent shockwaves through the coin-collecting community. This was authentic. This was a genuine mint error of extraordinary significance, and this was potentially worth a fortune. The coin was encapsulated in a tamper-proof holder, given a grade based on its condition, and within weeks, it appeared at a major numismatic auction where collectors from around the globe competed ferociously to own it. The opening bid was $50,000, which seems like a lot of money for a dime, right? But within minutes, the price had climbed to $500,000, then $1 million, then $2 million, and collectors were still raising their paddles, still determined to win this prize at any cost. The auction house auctioneer could barely keep up with the rapid-fire bidding. The tension in the room was absolutely electric. People were literally sweating with anticipation, and when the hammer finally came down, the final price was an absolutely staggering $8 million, making it one of the most expensive dimes ever sold in history and cementing its status as a legendary rarity that would be talked about for generations. But here's what makes this even more exciting for you watching this video right now. That was just one example of this error, and numismatic experts believe there are still more out there, still hiding in old coin collections, still sitting unnoticed in piggy banks and dresser drawers, still circulating through the economy waiting to be discovered by someone lucky enough and knowledgeable enough to recognize what they've found. This means that you could potentially be the next person to make this discovery. You could be the one who finds an $8 million dime and becomes an instant millionaire, and all it takes is paying attention, learning what to look for, and checking your coins carefully. The 1974 error dime is characterized by very specific features that distinguish it from normal dimes. First, look for pronounced doubling on the obverse, especially on Roosevelt's profile, the date numbers, and the word Liberty, where you'll see what looks like a shadow or ghost image slightly offset from the main design, creating a three-dimensional effect that's quite dramatic when viewed under magnification. Second, check the weight. A normal dime should weigh 2.268 grams, but the error dime with the missing clad layer will weigh noticeably less, somewhere around 2.1 grams, which you can verify with a precision digital scale that measures to hundredths of a gram. And yes, I know that sounds like an incredibly small difference, but it's absolutely detectable with the right equipment, and it's one of the key diagnostic features that authenticators use to verify genuine examples. Third, examine the edge of the coin very carefully. A normal dime has a copper-colored stripe running through the middle of the edge where the copper core is sandwiched between the nickel cladding, but on error dimes with cladding issues, this stripe may be absent, irregular, or exposed in ways that clearly indicate something went wrong during production. Fourth, look at the overall appearance and luster of the coin. Error dimes often have a slightly different color tone, a different reflectivity, or a different surface texture compared to normal dimes because the missing clad layer exposes different metal or because the striking error affected how light interacts with the coin surface, and experienced collectors can sometimes spot these differences instantly just by the look of the coin even before measuring or magnifying. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds too good to be true. How do I know this isn't just hype or exaggeration? And that's a completely fair question, so let me give you some context about the numismatic market and why these error coins genuinely command such astronomical prices. The coin collecting hobby isn't just some niche pastime for a few eccentric individuals. It's a massive global industry worth billions of dollars annually, with millions of dedicated collectors, investors, and enthusiasts who view rare coins as both historical artifacts and investment vehicles that can appreciate in value far beyond traditional assets like stocks or bonds. Rare coins have consistently outperformed many traditional investments over the past several decades, with some specific rarities increasing in value by thousands of percentage points as demand has grown and the available supply has remained fixed or even decreased due to coins being permanently removed from the market by museums and private collectors who never sell. When you have extreme rarity combined with high demand from wealthy collectors who view these coins as priceless treasures rather than mere commodities, prices can escalate to levels that seem incomprehensible to the average person, but make perfect sense within the context of the market. If there are only 3 or 4 known examples of a particular error coin in the entire world, and there are hundreds of collectors who desperately want to own one, then the price is determined simply by how much the wealthiest and most determined collector is willing to pay, and in the case of the 1974 error dime, that amount was $8 million. And don't forget, we still have another absolutely incredible dime to discuss, one that might even surpass this one in terms of shock value. So don't you dare click away now because you'll regret missing what comes next. Let me tell you about some of the other famous finds and near misses involving this 1974 error dime that will illustrate just how real this treasure hunting opportunity is. There was a woman in California who inherited a large jar of old coins from her grandfather, and she was literally about to take the entire jar to a coin-counting machine at the grocery store to convert it all to cash when a friend suggested she should at least look through it first just in case there was anything interesting. And thank goodness she listened to that advice, because after spending just 20 minutes examining the coins, she found a 1974 dime that displayed suspicious characteristics. She took it to a local coin dealer who examined it carefully and initially thought it was just a well-worn normal dime. But something about it bothered him, so he sent it off for professional grading, and when it came back authenticated as a genuine error with a grade of MS64, meaning it was in near-mint condition with minimal wear, the woman nearly fainted because she had come within minutes of exchanging a multi-million-dollar coin for about $47 in grocery store credit. Another fascinating story involves an estate sale in New England where a coin collection was being sold as part of a deceased collector's belongings. And while the family thought they had properly evaluated everything, they had missed one crucial coin hidden among thousands of more common pieces. A 1974 error dime that was cataloged simply as 1974 D dime, without any notation of the error characteristics. A savvy buyer who attended the estate sale purchased the entire collection for $8,000, which seemed like a fair price based on the visible inventory. But when they got home and started examining the coins more carefully, they discovered the error dime and nearly had a heart attack from the excitement. They immediately had it authenticated and graded, and they ended up selling it privately to a wealthy collector for an undisclosed sum rumored to be in the seven-figure range, turning their $8,000 investment into a life-changing windfall in a matter of weeks. These stories aren't urban legends or internet myths. They're documented cases that demonstrate the real possibility that these treasures are still out there waiting to be found. And they could be found by anyone, anywhere, at any time, including you. The key is education, awareness, and diligence. You need to know what you're looking for. You need to actually take the time to examine your coins rather than just spending them mindlessly. And you need to have the courage to pursue authentication and grading when you think you might have found something significant. Too many people find unusual coins and then talk themselves out of investigating further because they assume it's probably nothing. It's probably just wear and tear or damage, and they don't want to waste money on grading fees for a coin that might turn out to be worthless. But this kind of thinking causes people to miss out on fortunes. The professional grading fee for a single coin typically ranges from $30 to $100 depending on the service level and turnaround time you choose, which, yes, is a lot to spend on examining a dime. But when you consider that you're potentially investigating a coin worth $8 million, that grading fee is absolutely nothing. It's the best investment you could possibly make. Because even if 99 out of 100 suspicious coins turn out to be nothing special, that 100th coin could change your entire life and the lives of your children and grandchildren. And speaking of life-changing discoveries, just wait until you hear about the next dime we're going to discuss. I've been dropping hints about it throughout the script, and now I'm going to tell you that it's from the year 2000. It has its own unique error characteristics, and its value is so astronomical that collectors literally dream about finding one. But you'll have to keep watching to get all the details, because we're transitioning to that coin right now and you won't believe what you're about to learn. Last 2000 D1 dime worth $5 million. And if you thought the 1974 dime story was incredible, buckle up because what I'm about to share with you regarding this 2000 D dime is going to completely blow your mind and make you rush to check every single coin in your possession. Picture this. It's the year 2000. The world has just celebrated surviving the Y2K computer crisis that everyone feared would crash technology worldwide. There's excitement and optimism about the new millennium, and the United States Mint is producing billions of shiny new coins, including millions of dimes struck at the Denver Mint, indicated by that little D Mint mark, and these coins are flooding into circulation, being handed out as change at stores across America, and absolutely nobody realizes that hidden among these millions of ordinary dimes are a few extraordinary specimens that would eventually be valued at $5 million each. Yes, you heard that correctly, $5 million for a dime that's only a quarter-century old. A coin that many of you watching this video might have actually handled personally without realizing what you had. A coin that could still be sitting in your wallet, your car's cup holder, your kid's piggy bank, or that jar of change on your dresser right at this very moment. This isn't some ancient rarity from the 1800s that's been locked away in museums for generations. This is a relatively recent coin that's still out there in circulation, still being used in everyday transactions, still completely accessible to anyone lucky enough to recognize it. And that's what makes this particular treasure hunt so exciting and so realistic for the average person watching this video. Now, let me explain exactly what makes the 2000D dime so incredibly valuable and what specific error characteristics you need to be looking for if you want to have any hope of finding one yourself. During the production run at the Denver Mint in the year 2000, something absolutely catastrophic happened with one of the dies used to strike dimes. The die developed what numismatists call a major hub doubling error, combined with a transitional error, that created coins displaying characteristics that should not exist according to the official specifications. To understand what this means, you need to know a little bit about how modern coins are manufactured, so let me break it down for you in simple terms. The mint starts with a master hub, which is an exact three-dimensional positive relief of what the coin should look like, and this hub is used to create working dies, which are the negative images that actually strike the coins, and normally this process results in dies that produce perfect, identical coins millions of times over. However, if the hub is impressed into the die more than once with even a microscopic misalignment between impressions, the resulting die will create coins that show doubling in the design, where every element appears twice slightly offset from each other, creating that dramatic shadowing effect that collectors go absolutely crazy for. In the case of the 2000D dime error, the doubling is so pronounced that Roosevelt's eye appears to have two pupils. The letters in Liberty look like they're vibrating or moving. The date, 2000, shows clear separation with each digit appearing doubled. And even the mint mark, D, looks like it was stamped twice, creating an unmistakable visual signature that immediately identifies this coin as something special. But wait, there's more, and this is where it gets even more interesting. These same error dimes also exhibit what's called a transitional composition error, meaning they were struck on planchets intended for a different denomination or using metal composition specifications that had been changed or were in the process of being changed. Some of these error dimes were struck on planchets that have an unusual copper content, giving them a slightly different color and weight compared to normal 2000D dimes. And this combination of the dramatic double die error plus the wrong planchet composition creates a coin so rare and so sought after that when one appears at auction, collectors enter into bidding frenzies that drive prices into the millions of dollars. The first documented discovery of a 2000D error dime happened in a way that perfectly illustrates how these treasures can be found by absolutely anyone. A teenager working as a cashier at a fast food restaurant was counting out change for a customer when they noticed a dime that looked weird, with some of the lettering appearing blurry or doubled. And instead of just shrugging it off and completing the transaction, this observant young person set that dime aside and showed it to their manager after their shift, saying, "Look at this weird dime I found. Do you think it's worth anything?" The manager, who happened to be an amateur coin collector, took one look at it and their eyes widened like saucers because they immediately recognized the double die characteristics, and they offered to buy the dime from the teenager for $100, which seemed like an incredible deal for a 10-cent coin. The teenager accepted, thinking they'd just made a fantastic profit, and the manager took the coin home and examined it more carefully under magnification, becoming increasingly convinced that this was a major error variety that could be extremely valuable. They sent the coin to PCGS for authentication and grading, and when it came back encapsulated with a label identifying it as a 2000D double die obverse with transitional error, graded MS 66, the manager realized they had just acquired a coin worth significantly more than the $100 they'd paid for it. They consigned it to a major coin auction, and during the live bidding, the price climbed rapidly from the opening bid of $100,000 to $500,000 to $1 million to $2 million and ultimately settled at an absolutely stunning $5 million, making it one of the most valuable dimes in existence and proving that modern error coins can be just as valuable as classic rarities from previous centuries. Can you imagine being that teenager who sold a $5 million coin for $100? Can you imagine the regret and the lessons learned from that experience? This story has been shared thousands of times in coin collecting circles as both an inspiring tale about how anyone can find valuable coins and as a cautionary warning about the importance of doing proper research and getting professional opinions before selling anything that might be rare. Now, let's talk about the specific characteristics you need to examine when looking for this 2000D error dime. Because knowledge is power, and the more you know about what to look for, the better your chances of making a life-changing discovery. First and foremost, check the date. On normal 2000D dimes, the date appears crisp and clean with no doubling or separation of the digits, but on the error variety, you'll see clear doubling where each number in 2000 appears to have a shadow or ghost image, and this is particularly obvious on the zeros, which look almost like they're overlapping circles instead of single clean numbers. Second, examine the word liberty very carefully, especially the letters BER, which show the most dramatic doubling on authenticated error specimens, with each letter appearing to vibrate or shimmer because of the doubled impression, and under magnification you can actually see two complete impressions of each letter slightly offset from each other. Third, look at Roosevelt's portrait, particularly his eye and his hair, because the error die creates doubling here that makes the president look almost cross-eyed or like he has two sets of facial features superimposed on each other, which sounds weird and is definitely weird but is also exactly what you want to see if you're hunting for this specific error. Fourth, check the mint mark. The D mint mark on error specimens often shows doubling as well, appearing as two overlapping Ds or a D that looks thick and blurry compared to the sharp, clean mint mark on normal dimes. Fifth, and this is crucial, check the weight and color of the coin. Normal 2000D dimes should weigh 2.268 grams and should have the standard silvery appearance of copper-nickel clad coinage, but error dimes with the transitional composition will weigh slightly different, anywhere from 2.1 to 2.5 grams depending on the exact metal composition, and may display a slightly warmer, more coppery tone compared to normal dimes, especially when viewed under bright light at certain angles. These diagnostic features are your roadmap to identifying a genuine error coin versus a damaged coin or a coin that's just worn from circulation, because it's important to understand that not every weird-looking coin is valuable. Sometimes coins get damaged from being run over by cars, sometimes they get corroded from exposure to chemicals, sometimes they just get worn down from decades of handling and use, and these damaged or worn coins are basically worthless even though they might look unusual. The key is learning to distinguish between genuine mint errors that occurred during the striking process while the coin was being manufactured versus post-mint damage that occurred after the coin left the mint. And this is where experience, education, and professional authentication become absolutely critical. If you think you've found a 2000D error dime, don't just assume you've struck gold and start spending money you don't have. Instead, take clear photographs of both sides of the coin under good lighting and magnification. Post those photos in online coin collecting forums where knowledgeable collectors can give you their preliminary opinions. And if the consensus is that your coin shows promise, then invest in professional grading from PCGS or NGC, the two most respected authentication and grading services in the numismatic industry. These companies employ expert numismatists who examine thousands of coins every week, who have access to population data about how many examples of each variety exist, who use sophisticated equipment to detect counterfeits and alterations, and who can definitively tell you whether your coin is a genuine error worth millions or just a damaged coin worth face value. And yes, their services cost money, typically $50 to $100 per coin depending on various factors. But that's a tiny investment compared to the potential payoff if your coin turns out to be authentic. Let me share another incredible story that demonstrates both the opportunity and the challenge of finding these 2000D error dimes. There was a coin collector in Texas who made it their mission to search through as many 2000D dimes as possible, and they developed a systematic approach that involved visiting banks all across their region, purchasing rolls of dimes, examining every single coin carefully, keeping any potential errors, and returning the rest to circulation or back to the bank. This person spent years on this quest, examining literally hundreds of thousands of dimes, finding countless minor varieties and interesting coins, but nothing that qualified as the major error they were seeking. And there were many times when they felt discouraged and wondered if they were wasting their time and money on a fool's errand. But they persisted, they kept searching, they refined their eye for spotting doubling, and then one day, during a search through their 847th roll of dimes, they found it. A 2000D dime that displayed all the characteristics of the major double die transitional error, a coin so obvious in its error features that they literally shouted with joy when they spotted it under their magnifying lamp. They immediately secured the coin in a protective holder, took it directly to a professional grading service, and when it came back authenticated and graded as 67, indicating superb gem quality with minimal marks, they knew they had something extraordinary. They chose to keep the coin in their personal collection rather than sell it immediately, but they had it appraised for insurance purposes, and the appraised value came in at $5 million, representing years of searching and hundreds of hours of effort, but resulting in a discovery that completely validated their dedication and persistence. This story illustrates an important point about treasure hunting in general and coin collecting specifically. Success rarely comes easily or quickly. It requires patience, persistence, knowledge, and often a significant investment of time and effort. But when success does come, when you finally make that discovery that you've been working toward, the reward is absolutely life-changing and makes all the previous effort worthwhile. Now, some of you watching this might be thinking, $5 million for a dime seems absolutely ridiculous. Why would anyone pay that much? And I want to address that skepticism directly because it's important to understand the psychology and economics of rare coin collecting. For wealthy collectors, particularly those worth tens or hundreds of millions of dollars, spending $5 million on a rare coin is equivalent to a middle-class person spending $500 on a nice watch or piece of jewelry. It's a discretionary purchase that brings them joy, prestige, and the satisfaction of owning something extremely rare and historically significant. These collectors aren't buying coins as a financial investment necessarily, although rare coins have proven to be excellent investments over time, but rather they're buying them because they're passionate about numismatics, because they love the history and artistry of coins, because they enjoy the thrill of the hunt and the prestige of owning rarities that 99.99% of the population will never see in person, and because rare coins represent tangible connections to important moments in American history and culture. When you hold a 2000D error dime, you're not just holding a piece of metal, you're holding an artifact from the turn of the millennium, a reminder of Y2K fears and celebrations, a physical manifestation of human error and mechanical imperfection, and a connection to the anonymous mint worker whose mistake or oversight allowed this error to escape quality control and enter circulation where it would eventually be discovered and recognized for what it truly is. Additionally, the rarity factor cannot be overstated. Numismatic researchers estimate that fewer than 10 examples of the 2000D major double die transitional error dime exist in the entire world, with perhaps only 5 or 6 currently documented in certified holders and maybe a few more still hiding undiscovered in circulation or collections. And when you have single-digit quantities of something that millions of people would love to own, the price is determined purely by supply and demand. Economics, which in this case means astronomical prices. Think about it this way: if there are only 6 known examples of a coin and there are hundreds of wealthy collectors who desperately want to own one, then those 6 coins will be distributed to the 6 collectors willing to pay the most, and the 6th highest bidder might be willing to pay $5 million while the 7th highest bidder might be willing to pay $4.9 million. So the market clearing price ends up in that range simply because that's what it takes to separate the winners from the losers in the competition for ownership. This is the same economic principle that drives prices for other extreme rarities like original Picasso paintings, vintage Ferrari cars, rare diamonds, and beachfront mansions in exclusive locations. When supply is extremely limited and demand is extremely high, prices go crazy. And people who aren't part of that wealthy collector class often struggle to understand why anyone would pay such amounts. But for those who have the means and the passion, these prices make perfect sense. Now let me tell you about the authentication and grading process in more detail, so you understand exactly what happens if you submit a coin that you think might be this valuable 2000D error. When you send a coin to PCGS or NGC, it arrives at their secure facility and is logged into their system with a unique submission number. Then it's examined by multiple expert graders who evaluate its authenticity and condition independently of each other, looking for any signs of alteration, counterfeiting, or artificial toning, and checking the coin's diagnostics against their extensive reference database of known genuine examples. If the coin passes authentication, meaning the experts confirm it's a genuine mint product and not a counterfeit or altered piece, then it moves to the grading phase where specialists evaluate its condition on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being absolutely perfect and coins below 60 considered circulated rather than uncirculated or mint state. For error coins like the 2000D double die, the grading process also includes notation of the specific error variety on the certification label, using standardized terminology that collectors understand and that adds significant value to the coin compared to unlabeled or improperly attributed pieces. Once grading is complete, the coin is sealed in a tamper-evident plastic holder called a slab, along with a label showing the grade, any special designations, and a unique serial number that can be verified in the grading company's online database, providing authentication that the coin inside the holder is exactly what the label claims it to be, and giving buyers confidence that they're purchasing a genuine article rather than a fake. This encapsulation and certification process is what allows rare coins to trade for millions of dollars, because without trusted third-party authentication, buyers would have no way to verify that they're getting what they're paying for, and the market for high-value rarities would collapse due to fraud concerns and lack of confidence. The grading companies charge fees based on the declared value of the coin being submitted, so if you submit a coin you believe might be worth $5 million, you'll pay a substantial fee, typically several $100s, but again, this is absolutely worth it if the coin turns out to be authentic, because the difference between selling a raw, uncertified coin and selling a properly graded and authenticated coin can be millions of dollars. Buyers will pay premium prices for certified coins because they trust the authentication, they trust the grade, and they have recourse if anything turns out to be wrong, whereas buying raw coins is risky and most serious collectors won't do it for high-value items. So if you find what you think is a 2000D error dime, don't try to sell it on eBay as a raw coin for a few $100s. Invest in proper authentication and grading, get it certified by PCGS or NGC, and then you can sell it through a reputable auction house where it will reach serious collectors willing to pay what it's truly worth. As we wrap up this incredible journey through two of the most valuable and sought-after error dimes in American numismatic history, I want to leave you with some final thoughts and action steps that could genuinely change your life if you take them seriously. First, start checking your coins. Don't just mindlessly spend every dime that comes into your possession, but instead develop the habit of quickly examining each coin for unusual characteristics, doubling, weight differences, or anything that looks off compared to normal coins, because this simple habit, practiced consistently, could lead to a discovery worth millions. Second, educate yourself about error coins and mint varieties by reading books, joining online forums, watching educational videos, and learning from experienced collectors who can teach you what to look for and how to distinguish valuable errors from worthless damage. Third, invest in basic tools like a decent magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, a precision digital scale, and good lighting so you can properly examine coins when you find something suspicious. Because trying to evaluate coins with inadequate tools is like trying to read fine print in the dark. You'll miss important details. Fourth, be patient and understand that finding valuable error coins is a numbers game. You might need to examine thousands or even tens of thousands of coins before you find something significant. But the potential payoff is so enormous that the effort is absolutely worthwhile. Fifth, when you find something interesting, don't rush to judgment or make hasty decisions. Take your time, do your research, get multiple opinions, and invest in professional authentication before assuming you've either struck gold or found nothing. And finally, remember that the stories you've heard today about the 1974 dime worth $8 million and the 2000 dime worth $5 million are not fairy tales or exaggerations. These are real coins, real values, real discoveries that have been made by real people just like you, and there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't be the next person to make such a discovery if you're willing to pay attention, put in the effort, and believe in the possibility. The world of rare coins is filled with opportunities for those who are willing to look, learn, and persist. And whether you're a seasoned collector or someone who's never thought about coins before watching this video, you now have the knowledge and awareness to participate in this exciting treasure hunt that happens in plain sight every single day. So the next time you receive a dime as change, don't just toss it in your pocket without a second thought. Take a moment to really look at it, check the date, examine the details, feel the weight, and ask yourself, could this be the one? Because somewhere out there, mixed in with billions of ordinary dimes, are those few extraordinary error coins worth millions of dollars, patiently waiting for someone observant enough, knowledgeable enough, and lucky enough to recognize them for what they truly are. Life-changing treasures hiding in plain sight, and that someone could be you. Thank you so much for watching Error Coins Hub. If you found this information valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more incredible coin discoveries and treasure hunting tips, and drop a comment below telling me whether you're going to start checking your change more carefully after watching this video. I read every comment and I love hearing your stories, questions, and discoveries. Until next time, keep your eyes open, keep searching, and remember that fortune favors the observant. So happy hunting, and may your next dime be worth millions.